Are you up there? Hi, thank you. We're going to begin. Um, Today is Monday, April 17th, and this is the Board of Education meeting that we're beginning at here at 7 o'clock. Initially, we're going to take a few-minute break, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
all set up there? Dan? You good?
I'd like to now convene the regular business meeting of the Plainville Board of Education. Foster, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to start with special presentations. Board of Education recognition, Donald Harris. CABE will present PCS All-Stars.
No, he's not doing that. He's just presenting. PCS All-Stars is next. You're up, sir. Yes, sir. You're going into, you're blending them together. These are for board recognitions from CABE.
Good evening, Superintendent LePage, members of the Plainville Board of Education, especially to my friend.
It's tricky.
Okay,
There you go. Now you're live.
I'll start again. Good afternoon, good evening, Superintendent LePage and members of the Plainville Board of Education, especially to my good friend and colleague, Becky Terrell, who we served for a long time on the CREC board and on the CABE board. So my name is Donald Harris. I am the board chair from Bloomfield. I'm also the immediate past president of CABE. I'm here tonight to recognize the efforts of the Plainville Public Schools and to present you with a lot of awards. So I'm not sure how you want me to do this because you are in the middle of what we're all in the middle of, the dreaded budget season. And how would you like me to do this? I have 6 plaques. I can read them and talk about them, and then I'll just leave them with you to pass
Let me
on.
read them and we could do a picture up there in front of the,
Okay,
if that's all right.
that's fine.
You can all get up and
It was
hold. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
strange for me to be here at Plainville High School. Although I've never been in this building. The last time I was in Plainville High School, I was here as a basketball player in 1962, playing against Plainville High School and the great Earl Jackson and Bill Lasher, for those of you with deep memories. And they beat us that night by 2 points, but but Earl has been a long time friend. These awards represent the Bonnie Carney Award of Excellence for Educational Communication entries must meet all of the following criteria. First, the general criteria, which includes clarity of message, image, and consistency. And second, the specific guidelines of readability, editing, graphics, type, format, presentation, design, and value of expenditure. I'm very happy to present these Plainville with these awards for excellence, for educational communication, for their annual report entitled Business Brief, for a computer-generated project, budget infographic, for their course selection guide, the Plainville Adult and Continuing Education Program Guide, the Digital Program of Studies for Plainville High School, a special project, student reporting posters, social media, the Linden Street Principal's Twitter account, one that they didn't get in trouble with, I guess, and Going Green, which is the Going Green essay. CABE has been honoring districts with the Award of Excellence for Educational Communication since 1975. In 2016, the award was renamed in honor of longtime CABE staff member Bonnie B. Carney in recognition of her 47 years of dedication to education focused on communication. And with these awards, CABE's goal is to identify and always to honor the hardworking people in school districts for their continuing effort to communicate effectively. On behalf of the entire CABE organization, my congratulations to the Plainville school system.
Want the board members go up? Good.
Again,
You
I
do.
have a whole box that I'm glad I don't have to carry back to my car.
Want to have the board members come up and pictures? Your favorite thing? I'm sweating, they're trying to kill me.
Plainville Community Schools Budget Infographic. Plainville Public Schools, Plainville Adult and Continuing Education Program Guide. Plainville Community Schools Digital Program of Studies, Plainville High School. Okay. Plainville Community Schools Student Reporting. Plainville Community Schools Linden Street School Principal's Twitter account. Plainville Community Schools Going Green essay. Okay. Again, congratulations.
Tight as you can. Thank you. Jeff, you want to come down? No? Okay, can we just kind of slide a bit this way, to my right, to your left? Perfect. That. Thank you. Yeah, side right? Yeah, here, a little bit more. I want to center you right there on the screen. We can get you all in. Very nice. All right, perfect. All the plaques are up. Fantastic. Big smiles. 1, 2, and 3. Hold that. A couple more. 1, 2, and 3. Good. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Congratulations.
So I think we'd be remiss if the person who took the picture over here was Liz Davis. She's the one that's responsible for always doing the work and applying for the,
You want your plaque?
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on with the PCS All-Stars. Michaela Wells and Kelly Hickey, Unified Sports Coaches. Okay. Steve.
Okay, so this is a redo from the fall, and this is better. All right, that was an easy fix. So I want to thank Michaela Wells and Kelly Hickey for their outstanding leadership of the Unified Sports Program, really taking it to an incredibly new level. With the Board of Education support, expanding it from just a one season, one sport, to now 3 seasons and I think 6 sports in total. Pretty, it's kind of like the Olympics. And if you have, I know you've all seen the events, but I know we have some fans behind you. So what do you think, gang? Doing a pretty good job? So I normally read the nomination forms, but if any of the parents or anyone wants to come up and say a couple of words about these 2 individuals, you're welcome to do so. Anybody? Yeah, come on up. You were one of the nominators. I might have been one of the other ones, but we'll have you come up and get some pictures in a minute. You don't have to.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't prepared, but we definitely wanted to nominate you guys. You guys have been a huge part of our children's. I've been pushing Mr. LePage for years to make Unified more than just basketball. Ever since Braden started Unified at Wheeler, he loves it. All these kids love you guys, and thank you for making more sports than just one season. You guys are amazing. We love you.
So come on up and we'll get some pictures, but I just want truly thank you for stepping up. You put in so much time, and it's out of love. The level of energy, the passion that they bring. It's hard not to be excited when you're at the events and the games. So thank you so much, and we'll get your pictures with your awards.
Perfect, congratulations. Thank you.
I also wanted to say that I know Ms. Hickey, when we had asked her and Michaela, Ms. Wallace, to come tonight, she wanted to mention some other individuals who they said were an amazing part of the program as well in supporting the program. And that included Lisa LaRue, Lonnie, who goes by Javon Bradley. They said they're absolutely amazing, and it wouldn't be possible without them. Sheila Domino helps out a ton with building the excitement for the events. I've seen it happen, the big kind of rally, everybody wearing the uniforms and everything, and the celebrations before the big events. And then also Jen Jambart, who stepped in when Miss Hickey was out having her child, and took a little reprieve from coaching. So did I forget anyone? Oh, Lori Johnson volunteered to help too. All the parents who are amazing and so supportive. So, and the peer helpers, absolutely. So, and the athletes. So it's my, no offense to our cheers, cheerleading, but because they're going to get honored next. But Unified's my favorite team at the at PHS. No offense. I love those guys. Everyone on the team and the. Oh, really? May 3rd. I went to one at Bristol. Yeah, soccer. That was awesome. All right. So now we'll move on to our PCS cheer team. Our cheerleaders are their season was absolutely remarkable, to say the least. If you've been following all of my newsletters, of course they had. So we have Theron May and Isabella Donahue, our 2 cheer coaches. And, we were able to expand their positions with board support to have them really where they should be as full coaches and doing just an incredible job. They've been working countless hours most of the year, just really getting the girls and boy in the absolute best co-ed team shape, and it paid off, winning the CCC tournament, first place, for the 6th time. I think I remember this in the pictures. And I got to see that one. That was amazing. And then the states, winning the state competition for the class, was it class? Co-ed, I'm sorry, I always wanted class. For co-ed, I got to go to that one with my little girl. She was inspired, and she was doing cartwheels the whole night. And then I wasn't at the New Englands, but they also won the New Englands, so for co-ed. So just an incredible season. Did I forget any others? They had so many individual awards for the cheerleaders as well. Seth, I think, was the overall cheerleader of the year, right? And then several students and student athletes acknowledged for their talents, you know, both in competition and outside of it. So I want to bring up coaches, Isabel Donahue and Theron May, both former students of mine. Just wanted to say, congratulate them. And from what I understand, unless I'm mistaken, the 2023 PHS cheer team is getting the Sportsmanship Team of the Year. So congratulations on that, too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Take a good picture.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, big smiles. One more. Perfect, thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry. Good night. Thank you all. Congrats, guys. Thank you. Lost that for our audience.
They're hungry.
Next, we're going to move to the approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes this evening. If there are no objections or corrections to the minutes, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve item A, which includes minutes of the March 13th regular business of the Board of Education, and item B, special meeting of the Board of March 13th, 2023.
Madam Chair, I move to make a motion to approve both item A and item B, minutes to be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have Val. Do you have a report for us this evening? Student representative report.
Good evening, all. As spring break has just finished up, students are looking forward to closing out the school year with the roughly month and a half of studying remaining. Students are also excited for end-of-the-year events like prom and graduation. College acceptance season has also begun, with most students receiving their college decisions and committing to a university. Some seniors, but mostly juniors, are preparing for upcoming AP tests, with those being held in early May. Overview of events at PHS. Looking back, PHS successfully administered the SATs prior to spring break, with testing very successfully held in the main large gym and the library. Thankfully, both of the main testing rooms were very secure thanks to our guidance counselors, and thus no scores were invalidated. Spring break ran from April 7th to April 16th, and students enjoyed some time off before the final conclusion of the year and the beginning of testing season. Currently, the spring sports season is well underway, with track and field having held their first meets very successfully over the course of the past few weeks. So far, the boys team has only lost 1 meet, with the girls thus far remaining undefeated. The boys baseball team recently took their trip to Florida over spring break to participate in several out-of-state games. And National Honor Society invitations were recently sent out to students who met grade requirements for NHS, and applications were completed mostly over spring break, the final deadline being tomorrow. Looking ahead, AP tests are going to be administered from May 1st to May 5th, as well as from May 8th to May 12th. I will personally be taking AP Calc, Lang, Computer Science, and Computer Science Principles. The class of 2024 is hosting their Zumba fundraiser this week to raise money for end-of-the-year activities such as prom. SAT retakes will be taking place on June 3rd, with a lot of members of the junior class looking to take them again and improve on their current scores. Prom will also be taking place on June 3rd at the AquaTurf Club facility. Tickets haven't gone on sale yet, but should be soon. And students are looking forward to another learning adventure day later in spring with more courses being offered. PHS administration is also looking to expand on its prior selection of learning adventure day offerings through getting talented students involved in the program as instructors. That concludes the student perspective.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to citizens' comments. If you'd like to address the member of the Plainville Board of Education, you're welcome to do so. You'll have 3 minutes to voice the matter at hand or your area of concern. Does anyone wish to address the Plainville Board of Education? Does anyone wish to address the Plainville Board of Education?
So, about the school closing and
Just your name and address.
I just need your name and address.
yeah, Paul Mann at Warren Ave.
Okay.
So I'm just concerned about the school closing, the notification that was sent out, and then what they're. I thought I was talking loud enough, sorry.
Thank you.
So I'm just concerned about the school closing and everything. I don't see how closing the school is actually a good idea, and them doing any kind of, RFP to kind of see where everything would go. Because what happens, I know they were talking about less students, in the population and everything. What happens if they close that school? We get more kids later on, And then what's the student to teacher ratio? So again, I don't think it's a good idea. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. My name's Jacqueline Sharma, and 16 Strumlaw is my address. And I just wanted to address it too. I feel like after COVID and everything that's happened, displacing our children from an elementary school and putting them into a totally different environment with where their friends may not be is something that we really need to consider when we are making the decision. I totally support the MSP remodel and anything that's going to happen with that, but I just feel like as a parent of kids who are, I actually have a younger one who's not even in school yet, that I really love where they go to school. I love Linden, and I do not want to see them not have the same experience that their older siblings have had. And then I feel like, having the same teachers and the same perspective that they got to have during the whole process is something that they would really miss out on. So I'm really, against being able to, I want the middle school to be revamped, but, maybe trying to find another place for them to go so that our students don't get misplaced would be a suggestion. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to address the board? Okay, we'll move on. Due to the scheduled town council meeting, Mrs. Puglisi could not be with us this evening. I do have the council liaisons report. Anyone that wants to read the entire report, they can go onto the town website. I'm just going to go over one of the reports and updates that she's given us. The charter revision update. The Charter Revision Commission recently completed their mandatory review of the charter, including the 3 items charged to them by the town council. The commission has not yet officially recommended any revisions, but are on schedule to submit their final report to the town clerk on June 5th. The assistant town manager, assistant town attorney, and town clerk are drafting new language and providing clarification for certain sections of the charter. They will make a presentation to the commission at the next meeting, and a special meeting of the commission is likely to be called for Monday, April 17th, to review information provided by town staff. And we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For our guests who are here, I am going to address middle school building status report in a little bit. We're going to have the elementary team present first on the agenda. So our elementary principals, Ms. Adorato, Mr. Wallowitz, and Mr. Batchelder will give a very nice presentation about the status of the elementary school, coupled with the leaders from our math and our ELA department, you know, our reading, writing, and language arts. I'm having trouble coming up with the words tonight. So Wendy Bender and Jessica Cochran, who really do a great deal of leadership, and you'll learn a lot as you did with the middle school presentation. So if you could all come up, or if you want to come up one at a time. I think Andrew, you're kicking it off. We did a little dry run earlier, but if you all want to maybe sit in the front and then take your turns as you did. I think the board will be pleased with a very comprehensive report. Don't make any calls on that, Mr. Lewandowski.
All right. Good evening, Board of Education members. On behalf of the elementary admin and instructional leader team, thank you for allowing us to share with you an update on the state of our elementary schools this evening. Next slide, Dan, please. So what would be a presentation without showing our 3 rings, which outline our goals and action plans for Plainville Community Schools, because everything we do is closely linked to this vision. Next slide, Dan, please. Tonight, we will share information regarding social emotional learning, equity, and mastery as it pertains to reading and math. We will also share information about science as well. Next slide, please. So for students to reach their academic goals, they need to achieve the 5 social emotional learning competencies pictured on the right side of this slide. All 5 competencies promote effective cooperative learning with peers, which is paramount to student success. And the left side of the slide is just a quote I put up there. As educators, the more we know about who we teach, the more effective we will be with what we teach. Taking time to get to know our students isn't fluff time, it's academic time. So I think that's important. So to promote achievement of those social emotional competencies, we use an approach called RULER. The R is recognizing emotions in self and others. The U is understanding the causes and consequences of emotions. The L is labeling emotions accurately. The E is expressing emotions appropriately, and the R is regulating emotions effectively. There are several key strategies students learn to achieve those 5 ruler skills mentioned in the previous slide. The first one is the charter. At the start of the school year, teachers facilitate the establishment of classroom norms. Students anonymously provide input as to how they want to feel each day when they come to school and how they pledge to help one another feel that way on a daily basis. Once completed, the charter is posted in the classroom and referred to throughout the day and as needed when appropriate. The next strategy is the mood meter. Dan, if you could hit play on the top right-hand corner, because that's going to give a description of how the mood meter works. Thanks.
Each quadrant of the mood meter is associated with different kinds of thinking and learning activities. When students are in the yellow, they may experience emotions that promote creative thinking and the generation of new ideas. Brainstorming, energetic group activities, and creative problem solving are best done in the yellow. When students are in the red, they may experience emotions that heighten awareness and keep students on their toes. The red is good for competitive activities, like debating, or passionate expression, like promoting a cause. When students are in the blue, they may experience emotions that help them focus for deductive reasoning and critical thinking. In addition, the blue emotions prime students to relate well to others' misfortune, building empathy. The blue promotes success for tasks like proofreading, editing, and detailed analysis. When students are in the green, they may experience emotions that promote self-reflection and consensus building. Students feel comfortable, relaxed, and calm. collaboration are ideal for the green. The best teachers differentiate instruction using the mood meter and capitalize on all quadrants, knowing that all emotions matter.
Thanks, Dan. So teachers use the mood meter throughout the day to teach students to recognize how they are feeling, understand their feelings, label the feeling, and then talk about it to help them regulate their feelings in various situations. Teachers also use this tool to help students understand how certain characters are feeling in a story and how the character is expressing and managing his or her emotions and how their emotions change throughout the story. The third strategy is the meta moment, which is used to help regulate your emotions in a given moment. It is a process for extending the time between the experience of an intense emotion and then how a student responds to that emotion, so that the student can make better choices in the heat of the moment. In other words, for example, when students begin to feel angry, they can pause and think about and picture what their best self looks like and make the most helpful, effective response. Next slide, please. And these are some examples of ruler in our schools, and you can see the bottom left and the bottom right-hand corner examples of classroom charters. The top right-hand corner is an example of the mood meter. The top left-hand corner is Teflon Tiger's acronym, what they live and stand by: respect, organization, active learning, responsibility, and safety. Okay. And the bottom, well, that's all right, Dan, go ahead. Thanks. And so one way we measure our students' social emotional learning is through our DESA benchmark assessment. The DESA benchmark assessment is administered by teachers 3 times a year, the fall, winter, and spring. Teachers complete rating scales on each student to determine which students fall in the strong range, the typical range, and in the needs additional instruction range in relationship to the 5 CASEL social emotional competencies shown on an earlier slide. These competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Teachers use this data to determine which of these competencies our students are strong in and which groups or individual students need more instruction in certain areas. You can see by the graph from our winter benchmark, representing all of our Plainville elementary students, the vast majority of our students fall in the strong and typical range, and 9% of our students fall in the needs instruction range. This tells us the majority of our students are responding positively to our ruler approach in SEL instruction. But 9% of our students, which equates to 81 students, still require more individual or small group instruction from our teachers and SEL tutors in each of our 3 elementary schools. So this concludes the SEL portion of our presentation. Does the board have any questions? No. Yes. Ms. Clark.
Hi, good evening. I just found that it's interesting. Makes me think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that you have to feel safe and comfortable before you can build on that going up. And I think during COVID, a lot of people weren't feeling the first 2-3 layers of Maslow's triangle, if you will. And so it was hard to make progression and learn going forward. So although, you know, I've said about the social emotional things before, I wish we didn't have to share our information as part of a big database. I wish we were just doing this snugly as a community, so to speak. But I do see that it's important to make sure the kids are, you know, at one layer and then the other layer before they can truly meet their, you know, and learn. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
It's a good rebuttal.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up is Mr. Wallowitz.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share with the board. Next slide, please. So in Plainville, our elementary schools have worked to identify barriers to equity and put resources and practices in place to support all students and families. This remains an ongoing process of identification and outreach, and we are proud of the services and supports we ensure for our children and families. We are working to create systems that ensure that every child has the chance to achieve success and meet their full potential. In our elementary schools, the goal of our equity work is to meet the individual needs of our students so that they may have the same access and opportunity to high-level instruction. Next slide, please. We are analyzing and disaggregating data to identify trends and achievement gaps. Once gaps are identified, we are creating collaborative and sustainable systems that better meet the needs of all students. Our district-wide equity committee is led by Assistant Superintendent Dave Lewandowski and Lily Corniel, and also includes all 3 elementary administrators and teachers from each school. We work together to collect and analyze data and dive deeper to collaboratively identify areas of need. This information is then used back at our school's building-based equity teams to support each other in this work and to share strategies that will be implemented across the district. Next slide, please. We utilize translators for our families who speak different languages to support our homeschool connections. We are working to ensure that books and curricula are available to students which represent the diversity of our student population and provide both windows and mirrors for our students. Next slide, please. We host parents who share stories in their native language to expose students to the variety of different languages and cultures represented throughout Plainville Community Schools, and our students use morning announcements and other media to inform, share, and celebrate with their peers. This is an exciting time to be a Plainville Elementary student. With equity as a major focus of our district, our goal is to treat all students and families with the respect and dignity they deserve. Thanks.
Hi, how are you? So I get one of the easy tasks. I just have one slide, Dan. Easier tasks of giving an overview tonight and then introducing our 2 lovely instructional leaders to give you more specific information. But when we think about teaching and learning, one of the most powerful strategies for teachers is to know and understand not just the skills that our students need to master in a current grade level, but also those from the previous and the next grade. So we collaborate during PLCs and grade level meetings to fully understand that work, to utilize content area progressions, to familiarize ourselves with vertical alignments of the standards from kindergarten through grade 5. And as we do continue down that path of recovery from interrupted learning, we're using an acceleration mindset when making the instructional decisions regarding lessons in our classrooms. Some of this work is done individually and at each building. However, much of it's done from a district level to ensure all 3 of our elementary schools and every child and teacher understand the overall expectations we have and that they receive high quality targeted instruction to support their needs. So every day you would notice our teachers use all they know about our children, including data from universal screens, diagnostic assessments, unit level assessments, and daily check-ins to guide their instruction and next steps for each student. And these assessments help us to figure out what students know and where they may need additional support. We analyze that data individually and meet together with grade level colleagues, resource teachers, instructional leaders, and administrators across the district to identify trends, determine the needs, and plan for next steps. Our expectations certainly remain high, as does our belief that every child in every one of our classrooms is capable of doing the work, making growth and progress, and achieving at their highest potential. Through our hard work, planning, and collaboration, and all of our collective efforts, we are seeing some positive data trends starting to peek through. And as you heard me mention, we have many data points that we can use to see what our students know and what their needs are. And if we shared each of those assessments with you, we'd be here for quite a few hours tonight. So we'll just focus on 3. And these are the 3 that inform our core instructional work. Those assessments are differentiated reading assessments, or DRI for short, iReady literacy assessment, and the STAR math assessment. The DRI assessment's used to determine a child's understanding of phonics skills, and that data is then used to group students together who have similar literacy needs. It's a quick assessment that we give every 3 to 6 weeks in order to move our students up to the next learning target as soon as they're ready. So there's very little waiting in between those assessments. Our iReady literacy assessment's used at the elementary level and given 3 times per year. As a screening tool, it provides us with data about a child's overall literacy level, vocabulary, and comprehension. It's also used as a diagnostic tool, which helps us to pinpoint areas of further focus of instruction and support. And then finally for STAR Math, which is also used at our elementary level as a screening and diagnostic tool, also given 3 times per year. It does provide us with information about a child's overall math understanding. It also breaks down performance on specific domains and standards.
And in addition, Star Math freckles with another system you might have heard of, which is Freckle. So that is an online system that interfaces to provide adaptive and teacher-directed practice. So every time one of our children takes the Star Math assessment, the system automatically places them in the Freckle online system adaptively to be able to appropriately challenge them for where their level is. And teachers can also utilize Freckle to provide assignments for additional practice on specific standards and skills that they're working on in their classroom. And so while there'll forever be space for improvement, we're quite proud to share with you some of our student successes in literacy and math so far this year. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome Wendy Bender, followed by Jessica Cochran, who will share with you more specifics about our instructional goals and outcomes so far this year.
Good evening. Again, my name is Wendy Bender. I'm the instructional leader for elementary language arts, and I'm here today to talk to you about some of the things we've been doing in language arts this year. So thank you. So for our Tier 1, which is classroom instruction, we use the Teachers College Units of Study, and we've been doing a reinvigoration project for K-5 grade levels, and the Tier 1 instruction is the instruction that happens for all students in the classroom, and it's evidence-based and aligned with state standards. In kindergarten through grade 5, we use the Teachers College Units of Study, and we also use the 5 pillars of early literacy in alignment with the Common Core for reading instruction in the classroom. We use conferring and small group instruction to differentiate that instruction during independent reading, and we provide skill groups, strategy groups, and guided reading groups, and these support students where they are in the learning continuum. Can you change to the next slide? Thanks. So last year when I was here, we had started the conversation about the science of reading. And up in that corner, we had presented a visual of the 5 pillars of the science of reading, which include phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Since that time, we've learned a lot more about the science of reading. And so this graphic here is a more accurate depiction of what the science of reading is all about. It's more like a puzzle where the pieces fit together to create the whole picture of comprehension. Our goal is comprehension. And comprehension is that understanding of what we're reading and being able to formulate thoughts around that information. So if you would, okay, thank you. So our goals for this year were to ensure appropriate rigor and alignment with the standards. Now that we're back into what we would call a normal year, and we're making sure that our students are cared for emotionally and physically, now we're focusing a little bit more on that rigor and making sure that the instruction is pushing them to their potential. The focus on classroom instruction reduces the need for outside intervention, like pulling students out of the classroom for additional support. And we also have focused on supportive professional development for teachers to make sure that our instruction is doing what we want it to do. So, for our professional development, we've got a system where we utilize certain what's the word I'm looking for? Meeting time, thank you, Mr. B. Types of meetings in order to facilitate these this professional development. So we start at the PLC, which is the professional learning community. This is where grade levels come together across the district and talk about the grade level instructional ideas and that kind of thing. We introduce the professional learning concept there, and then we bring it to faculty meetings at the building level so we can address building specific needs. And And then from there, we meet with teachers in grade levels at the building level. So now we're taking that professional development, we're targeting it for the grade level in the particular school to make sure that the teachers are getting the instruction that they need in order to support their students. And then we do coaching cycles where we work with individual teachers or groups of teachers to target specific skills that we want teachers to be doing in the classroom and for instruction. Our focus has been on, and Mrs. Adorato had mentioned, differentiated reading instruction, which we've implemented in grades K through 2 completely this year, and also foundations. Those focus on our phonemic awareness and phonics skills. And then the progressions in alignment with the standards, the written response to reading in readers' notebooks, and the interactive read aloud really focus in on that comprehension piece with fluency and vocabulary components. You can switch to the next slide. So this is the differentiated reading progression. And I wanted to show you this because that bottom, it kind of looks like a staircase. And so that bottom stair is where we want kindergarten students, the skills that we want kindergarten students to master. The step up from that is what we want grade 1 students to master. And by that third step, that's where we want second graders. So really our focus is on those 7 different phonics skills. And once students have those phonics skills and are proficient with that, we say that they've kind of cracked the code, and that makes reading a lot easier for them. And then they can move into multisyllabic words and read a lot more complicated text. And so when we're talking about differentiated reading instruction, we're going to go to the next slide, which is some data on this. So for differentiated reading instruction, we started the instruction in kindergarten in January. Because we wanted the students in kindergarten, we wanted to provide them with that SEL, make sure they understood what school was, get them acclimated to instruction and the classroom and the teacher and their peers. And so we started differentiated reading instruction in January. And in January, we had about 60% of the students on that bottom level ready to do all that skill work. By March, 2 months later, we were at 90%. So differentiated reading is a really impactful, powerful tool that we use to help students acquire those phonics skills. So in grade 1, we started this process in the beginning of the year. And at that point, they were at 47% where the students were on that second step. And now in March, we're at 92%. So again, very powerful. Second grade, if you notice, in the beginning of the year was quite red. 17% of our students had completed those first 2 steps and were ready for multisyllabic decoding and working with that. And by March, they've grown 42 percentage points to be at 59%. So again, and grade 2 was highly impacted by COVID. So you see the impact of missing that instruction and trying to learn phonics through masks and those kinds of things. So this is a video I'm going to show you of a supplemental instruction. It's kind of augments DRI. And this was created at Wheeler by one of our instructional resource teachers, Megan Ray. And this is called Tap It, Map It, Graph It, Zap It. And she invited teachers in grade 1 to come and watch her do this lesson. She also invited instructional resource teachers from the other buildings. And Michelle Steck from Taflon went over and watched this lesson. And then she took this lesson and brought it back to Tafalon. So I share this with you to show that what we're trying to do is kind of cross-pollinate across the district, make sure we're showing each other best practices and then bringing them back to the other buildings and utilizing these great instructional tools. So you'll just see a quick snippet of this, but the kids are very excited about it. It's a fun and engaging little activity. So if you could play the video, thank you.
Burn. Cappers up. Burn. Burn. Same herb. So see what you're gonna do here with that word burn. Okay. Map it. Good. Burn. Burn. You got it. Good job. Now graph it. Same as the other ones. Good. All right, what are you gonna do next? Zap it. Zap it. Good. Write that word burn, and then you're gonna pass down your chips. Can you get that? Write the word burn. Now I'm gonna hear you. You're gonna write and spell that word burn. Go ahead. B-U-R-N. Burn. Awesome.
So as you can see, this is a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic kind of activity. It's very engaging. The kids really enjoy it, and it kicks off the DRI lesson. If you switch to the next screen. So now I'm going to talk to you about iReady and the growth for 3rd through 5th. iReady, like Mrs. Adorato had mentioned, is a computer-based assessment, and it's given 3 times a year, but this year we just began giving it to 3rd grade, and we started in the winter. So we only have one testing data point for 3rd grade, but there was 79% of students that had reached mastery or were working towards mastery in 3rd grade. In 4th and 5th grade, we did the fall test, and then we did it in the winter. For 4th grade, they're also at 79% in the winter for mastery or working towards mastery. 5th grade grew 10 percentage points and went from 62% in the fall to 72% in the winter. So again, this is a way that we're tracking how students are comprehending complex text. So when we do this work, I mentioned progressions, and progressions are tied to the standards, but progressions are kind of like a roadmap that help teachers and students know where they are, what the skill they're working on is, and then where they can go next. And so I just wanted to give you an example of what a progression looks like. We have nonfiction and or narrative and informational progressions. And this happens to be an informational progression, because the next slide I'm going to show you is an example of some work that 5th graders have been doing in informational text. So this is an article that 5th graders were taught how to annotate. And annotating is a fancy word for note-taking. But you can annotate on a particular text, or you can take a separate paper and do your note-taking. This particular lesson was teaching students how to annotate on the text itself. And the teacher explicitly walked students through how to do that. And then they were asked to then go into their reader's notebook and do a quick write. And a quick write is a 3 to 4 minute write about something. And so their direction was, what do you remember about this article? What did you take from this article? And so this is just some visuals of a 5th grader looking at the article, jotting down ideas that she gathered from that annotating. And then this is another nonfiction progression. This I wanted to show you because the last slide I'm going to show you is a video of a third grade classroom that did a celebration after they did a nonfiction unit where they did a research project on a particular animal that they were interested in. And so this progression helped them work through that research and create the project that they ultimately were able to celebrate. And so in this video that you're going to see, a third grade teacher had asked students to put together a research project on a particular animal. It was computer-based, so this was all on the computer. They did like a Google slide presentation. And when the project was done, she invited educators from across the district. So Mr. LePage was there, Mr. Lewandowski. Mrs. Adorato was there as the principal, some of the IRTs, some of the teachers in the building, and then the entire class. And what they did was they had their computers out, and the teacher asked or assigned two students in the class that they had to go and look at the project. And the task was to look at their research project and then give them a compliment and a suggestion. So there were Post-it notes next to each of the computers. And then the students also had the opportunity to pick another research project of their choice and do the same thing. So I tried to capture the excitement and just the engagement and energy that, just the pride that the students had with all of this. So it's just a little clip of the students in the classroom celebrating their hard work and their research projects. So you might see some of these at the superintendent showcase as well. So some of the students have been invited to come and share their projects there as well. And I'm going to hand it over now to Jess so she can talk to you about math and science.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Cochran, the instructional leader for math and science. Thank you for welcoming us tonight and being open to us sharing all that we're doing in math and science. We are continuing to implement illustrative math, IM for short, and that is supported through the platform Imagine Learning Classrooms. You might hear these acronyms being used back and forth. We are in year 2 of version 1 of implementation, so I point that out because for some teachers, this is just the second time that they're teaching lessons from some of these units, and for other teachers, it's even the first time that they're teaching certain lessons from certain units. But we are gaining momentum and we are getting more comfortable with the rigorous problem-solving based approach. We are focusing on the development of deep conceptual understanding and supporting students in their community building and collaboration. IM follows a coherent scope and sequence that builds within and across grade levels, which you'll see on another slide, and there are many embedded supports and extensions to meet the needs of all of our students. So here is a chart that I was referencing. This chart reflects the coherent progression of topics within units across all grade levels. The progression of topics within units and across units supports students in making connections to prior understandings and upcoming grade level work. And the coherence within and across units allows students to view math as a connected set of ideas that make sense. Each activity within each lesson is part of a mathematical story across units and grade levels. This year, we created a kindergarten universal math screener to be administered 3 times per year. And we needed to create it because our use of the STAR math assessment is only for students in grades 1 through 5. We were able to track the percentage of students who are demonstrating mastery on grade level standards, specifically looking at the 5 domains within kindergarten math. We observed significant gains within each domain, increasing the percentage of students demonstrating mastery in each category, as well as shrinking down the number of students showing a limited or just progressing level of understanding so far from fall to winter. We're confident that the percentages representing mastery will only continue to grow from winter to spring, especially in our NBT domain. Students have yet to even be instructed in teen numbers, but have already demonstrated good growth, which we know will continue to increase as that unit is taught. Other topics that spiral back in the remaining units will also be reflected in a higher mastery percentages in these domains come the spring. So for our students in grades 1 through 5, we do use the STAR Universal Screener. These are percentages at the district level for students who are at or above benchmark. According to the testing research done by the assessment platform Renaissance, which also has the companion freckle that Alicia spoke of earlier, a percentile rank of 40 is a cut score that serves as a proficiency benchmark. So we look at students whose test scores place them at that percentile rank or higher as who will likely meet end of the year performance goals as defined by state and local standards. Our goal is obviously to increase the percent of students who are at or above benchmark each testing window. To note, content that has not yet been taught is captured on this assessment. So by spring, students will by then have had exposure, inquiry, and instruction on more grade level topics. If we're looking at grades 3 through 5, again, we see from fall to winter, we've continued to grow the number of students who are achieving at or above benchmark. The plus 6%, plus 9%, and plus 3% represent an increase in the percentage of students who made more than just typical growth. So students have to grow in their overall score from fall to winter and winter to spring just to maintain the percentile rank. So all those pluses represent students who actually made more than typical growth. Again, in those grade levels, the scope and sequence of the IM units will allow and provide students more opportunities to spiral back to grade level content, as well as deepen their understanding of topics that have yet to be taught. So what are our goals in implementing math this year? Well, we're focusing on simply implementing that problem-solving based model with students as problem solvers and teachers as facilitators. We're emphasizing developing students' conceptual understanding and pushing those multiple representations and strategies. We are also keeping a focus on deepening teacher content knowledge through embedded professional development. And so again, similar to what Wendy described for the goals with the literacy department, her team of IRTs, and their approach, ours mimic the same. So from the individual coaching level, where we are modeling and co-teaching in the classroom right alongside teachers, we have pre-planning meetings. We go through the experience of modeling and co-teaching and then have reflection meetings after. Bringing it to a grade level meeting, so within individual buildings at a grade level team meeting, we spend the time digging into the lesson components, the warm up, the activities, the lesson synthesis, the cool down, the centers, really digging deep into what should students be doing, what are the strategies that we're looking for, and how are we going to elicit those strategies if we're not seeing them. We also take the time to look at end of unit assessment data at our grade level meetings and discuss implications for next steps instructionally. How are we going to meet the needs of students who may have excelled on a recent assessment, and then those who may still be struggling with the content. And then our most broad time to work together as a professional learning community is our PLC time district-wide. That's our opportunity to really embed content PD for teachers, as well as analyzing the progression of the standard. So analyzing the progression of a certain standard within a grade level and how it shows up over the course of multiple units, but also that vertical alignment. So understanding within my grade level, what comes before and where does it go next. There's also some assessment guidance that we look at as a whole team so that we can reflect on not just the data of an individual teacher or a grade level at a particular building, but are there trends across the district that we're seeing so that we can make next steps in our instruction. And so highlights that were shared last year, this is why we're so excited about IM, but just to reemphasize the problem-based learning experience, the productive struggle where our students are grappling We're balancing their time between giving them independent time so that they can be independent problem solvers, but also collaborative partnerships, small groups, where student communication is really the key, and that's what we're looking at having them strengthen. One thing to also mention about that last slide, that those are all key features that connect to the portrait of the graduate. Our students are resilient, collaborative, and problem solvers. And so here's just a sample of some third grade work with subtraction. So you'll see that the first student demonstrated his understanding through a representational model using base 10 blocks, as well as marrying it with the abstract equation. And then another student was demonstrating her abstract understanding using the standard algorithm, but paired it with a very lengthy written explanation of the process. So it wasn't just the procedural knowledge, she could really expand upon the process. And then this is a 5th grade example of division of decimals. And what we want to point out here is that those visual representations really develop their understanding of the inverse relationship between multiplication and division of decimals and of whole numbers. So students are communicating their reasoning of the answer to what 1 6/10 divided by 1/10 is, truly by relying on how the diagram is representing those operations. And you can see just how much is written work versus just procedural and abstract equations. So that concludes my summary for math. And for science, if we could go to the next slide. We are excited to be in our first year of our comprehensive science curriculum, Mystery Science, that is NGSS aligned and follows the 5E model. Teachers and students rave about the engaging hands-on and effective units, which include everything from lesson plans for activities to videos and to assessments. The mystery packs provide all the necessary materials for students to create, explore, and explain science phenomena. In addition to fully implementing all the mystery science units from K to 5, each grade level team is also implementing 2 defined learning projects. And I'll speak about defined learning in a bit. So our mystery science units by grade level. As students engage in each unit, they are first anchored by a scientific phenomenon. They develop inquiry skills as they make observations and ask questions throughout the unit. During lessons, they investigate specific real-world events that provide conceptual pieces to a larger scientific idea. They revise their models, arguments, explanations, or design solutions as they collaborate and learn the key concepts of the unit. All units K to 5 include life science, earth and space science, and physical science. And these are our units for grades 3, 4, and 5. So we can go on to the next slide. Here is an example of a 5th grade Web of Life unit, a mold terrarium. So students planned and conducted an investigation to discover the factors that affect decomposition. They changed environmental conditions like heat or added preservatives to show how different variables affect mold growth, and they included a control. So this took time, over a couple weeks, but they were really excited about it, and teachers didn't mind that mold was growing in their classrooms. But you can see that they had the additional, the graphing piece to it where they were keeping track of the data, and they could really track that over time. Okay, so define learning. These are our project-based learning opportunities. In addition to the activities and lessons within the mystery science units, each grade level team is implementing defined learning projects. These projects expose students to different college and career pathways as they are hooked into helping to solve a real-world problem. We know that there are so many advantages to project-based learning, and so we're really excited to be able to marry that to the work that's being done in mystery science and also across other content areas like reading and writing. So here's an example of a defined learning project in kindergarten called Zookeeper. Students were prompted to research what is the job of a zoologist at a zoo. They learned about animal habitats and how to care for animals. And these were some of their products. Next slide. Grade 2, honeybees. Students researched how honeybees are important in our environment as pollinators, as well as what a beekeeper's job is. Their products included skits, songs, posters, and essays. And I wish I could show a video. They dressed in costumes and they got so into it. The kids, I think they did this project in the fall and they're still talking about honeybees today. They just want to give you all that info. And another example from grade 4 was an erosion management specialist project. Students researched how erosion impacts beaches, answering questions like what types of things on the land can be affected if beach erosion gets bad enough? What are some of the designs that have been used to protect against erosion? what are the good or bad effects of those designs? So their products included a demonstration, an oral presentation, posters, Google Slides, or a newspaper article to explain to the community how to protect beaches from erosion. And we are super excited to end with bringing Camp Invention back for a third year. Last year I was one of the instructors, and this year I will be coordinating the program. So it's a full week of everything science, technology, engineering, art, and math. 80 students entering grades 5 and 6. Come every day. It's a full day. It's a long day, but it is filled with so much excitement. They rotate through 4 different activities that are ongoing, that build throughout the week. It infuses those key concepts that we celebrate in math and in science of collaboration, exploration, discovery, and hands-on activities. So we're really excited to have it back, and we appreciate, all that's done to help support and provide the money for that, to provide that free program for our students. So, thank you so much for allowing us to share some highlights. Do you have any questions for us?
I do have a question. I don't know who specifically I would direct it to, but it's a question I've had for a moment. You guys are giving me the perfect opportunity to ask it. What role, if any, at the elementary school level does transformative SEL have in Plainville? Thank you.
I'm not sure what you mean by transformative in terms of.
Well, that is a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
It might be under the name of cultural responsiveness. That might be one of the directions. Why don't I read you from Castle's website what
Sure.
it is, and you can let me know if it has anything to do. Because I asked this question because I think it's important. When we talk about social and emotional learning, one of the things that I did as a parent before being elected to the Board of Education was to go to the Board of Education website. And I was linked to the Castle website, and I watched every video that I possibly could to understand social and emotional learning. And 70% of it in this modern day, I think is just, I wouldn't know who could ever disagree with wanting your children to be, included and treated as individuals. So I just want to say that publicly. What took me aback and why I asked the question was there was a gentleman on the Castle website who gave a presentation about transformative SEL. I'll read what it is, and then I'll just go on to share what I was concerned about. Transformative SEL is a form of SEL implementation where young people and adults build strong, respectful, and lasting relationships to engage in co-learning. It facilitates critical examination of individual and contextual factors that contribute to inequities and collaborative solutions that lead to personal, community, and societal well-being. Sounds like the SEL we're talking about. It goes on to focus on identity, agency, belonging, these types of things, social justice. One of the original videos that I saw in my research was a gentleman talking about how SEL was the perfect framework, and the words that he used concerned me, to systemically embed these additional social justice criteria into the SEL framework, the original SEL framework. He said it was a perfect framework, and again, this is Castle. I got here by being interested in the topic, and said it was a perfect framework to systemically embed these things. I think as a community, when we talk about these things, it's important. I've spent the last year in the schools witnessing some pretty remarkable things with our teachers, our students, the collaboration. This presentation is excellent. Thank you. So I've seen with my own eyes the benefit of what SEL has to contribute. 70%. The concern is, as a parent and now as a Board of Education member, when I see this being, celebrated to systemically embed these other things into the framework of SEL, it leaves us confused as to be able to talk about these things separately and indivially.
Well, I hope I can clear this up.
I
for you.
thank
Now
you very
now
much.
I understand.
Makes
this
sense, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know I think I understand what the man was referring to, the gentleman with transformative. SEL. But at the elementary level, Mr. Wallowitz and I both spoke about it. We want kids to see themselves in their cultures and see others' cultures as valued. We welcome everybody, no matter what color their skin color is, what type of hair they wear, what religional preference they have. We just welcome all, and we're inclusive. And that's where it stops, pretty much. And we talk about, just being kind to others. And we do that so that it transforms throughout their academic day, as I alluded to, and also beefing up our library so kids just don't see books that are from one race, color, or religion. They see books that they can see themselves and see history and people that led it in their own culture and in their own lives and their own families and what they celebrate. That's pretty much where it lies there at the elementary level.
And how does cultural responsiveness correlate with that, or does it at all?
That's what it means, what I just said. It just, being able to respond, instructionally. So when your kids have individual book bins at the elementary level in second grade, they can pick out a book that's at their reading level that they might see, examples of their own culture in the book that they're reading, or they go to the library and they pick out library books. They might see books of their own culture. When we're celebrating different historical months, Women's History Month, or Black History Month, or Hispanic Heritage Month, that we'll do lessons around those different areas and those cultures to celebrate them in the classrooms. And that's being culturally responsive.
Thank you. And as far as the other elements, gender, identity, those types of things, at what level are we, besides seeing someone who looks like you? I mean, again, that goes to, of course, you would want that in any school system to be inclusive, show the diversity of our community. In that, so it sounds like we do have some transformative SEL. It just might not be defined, as that gentleman said in the original video, in our elementary schools here in Plainville.
We don't talk about gender and identity at the elementary level.
Okay, very
So
good.
it doesn't rise to that.
Listen, this is important questions and good to ask.
Yeah. Unless I'm missing something, I'll refer to my two colleagues. Mr. Lewandowski, did I miss anything? Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I just want to close by saying thank you again for the Board of Ed listening to us and allowing us to share. But I also want to highlight our two instructional leaders, Wendy Bender and Jessica Cochran, because the systems that they describe with PLCs and grade level meetings and faculty meetings and all these systems that are intertwined, having been a principal in Plainville for 9 years, I've never seen the systematic approach work so well to provide embedded professional development for our teachers. And they couldn't do it. What they don't talk about, when we haven't talked about, is the credibility that they've established with teachers. And they're able to give teachers feedback on practice and instructional practices, and teachers believe in them, they trust them, and they respond positively to them, which we hope that will positively impact student learning. So we're very grateful to have those two instructional leaders we have here tonight. So thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I also wanted to say that I have always found Mr. Wallowitz to be very open to, even if it's during rounds or questions I've had as a parent or any of those times that, and I hope and I imagine the other principals to be responsive and get back to you and feel, I've always spoke highly, and I suggest other parents or, talk to the teacher, talk to principal, the number's there, you're going to find out information. As far as looking into things, it's kind of, the parents have to feel that they can comfortably go to the principals. And I believe that, you guys are pretty open, and, parents should feel comfortable just, calling and stuff. That it's also, I've always found it to be true. So I think that's to be commendable as a community, so thank you.
I was just going to thank everyone. The presentation was very informative. Thank you all.
Yeah, Thank you, principals and Jessica and Wendy. Very informative and even added to it since earlier today, so good stuff in there. A couple more slides. That's one of my tricks. I tend to make it longer. That was great. Thank you. Our elementary team is working extremely hard. The principals, the instructional resource staff, leadership, really laser-like focus on data, using assessment to drive instructional shifts and help students meet them where they are and bring them where you want them to be. So that's been the goal throughout the year. We have our data meetings in each school every single month, and just we're keeping it in front of us all the time, so we know where teachers know where the kids are, and they're working to solve those challenges that we've had because of some of the gaps that are inherent with the times that we've lived through. So I'm really proud of the work that you're doing, so thank you so much. I'm going to move on to the next and the last item on my report that relates to the middle school building status, and you're more than welcome to get some beauty sleep, Mr. Batchelder.
We won't comment on that.
Yeah, good call, good call. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want, I'll do a quick recap because I know we have some guests with us tonight, but I just want to also be really clear that any idea of closing a school or consolidating schools did not stem from the Board of Education at all. That was an idea expressed by some council members. We just came from a meeting. That's why we started a little late tonight. We were at a meeting, a special meeting about the middle school from 6:30 until 7. So some of us left early, some stayed for the whole meeting, that portion. So that's a kind of a third option that has developed from after really thoroughly investigating two other options, and the council, deciding to want to perhaps pursue a third option of doing a study of our schools from an outside organization and looking at possibilities for what was said to be closure of the middle school, moving the students from the middle school to Linden, moving the Linden students to the other two elementary schools. I gave my very clear and specific assessment of that idea, probably a little more boldly than I should have at the forum at the middle school last week before vacation, but it's not a feasibility. From my professional opinion, the Board of Education would have to make a vote in order to close any schools. It's a Board of educational programming decision to make, so it would have to be a collaborative decision with the board on board. Excuse the alliteration or pun, whatever it is. But going back in time, just to give the history, going way back in time to when they first renovated, Linden, and then the high school, and then Toflon, and then Wheeler. There was a plan to renovate all of the schools when they hit their timeline. The plan, for as long as I've been here 13 years, and it was always talked about, we're going to do the middle school when we hit the 30-year mark. I went to Hartford, talked with Bob Selmer and Michelle Dixon from the Department of Administrative Services back in 2019. We wanted to make sure we knew when the date was where we could apply for the application to renovate the middle school. We wanted to get on that right away, so we didn't waste any time. When we clarified what that date was, I don't have it committed to memory, but I think it was October of 1992 was when the building was accepted by the board. So it's 30 years from there. So it was October of 2022 when you were eligible. So you have to prepare for that to submit it. So a timeline was put together in order to submit that application. Fast forward. In preparing for that, there's a lot of work that has to be done to submit an application to renovate a building. There's educational specifications or ed specs that have to be done. There's a cost estimation process for all the ed specs of what you want for that building. There's a number of meetings with the school staff, with the leadership, with myself, with our whole team to learn what do you envision this building being at its very best for kids, for learning. So that whole process has to happen. The town council commissioned for a fee of about $90,000, a company called Construction Solutions Group, during most of last year, 2021-22, in preparation for that application to be submitted in June. All applications for renovation have to be submitted by June 30th of the year, and then they go to you can either do a referendum before it or after, but the plan was to go for a referendum in November of this past fall of 2022. if the application had been approved. So throughout that process, there are a number of things that happened. In all fairness, I'll explain them. The costs skyrocketed because of rising costs and inflation, and so the cost did go up from the initial. All along, we were thinking it would be a total of maybe $32 million project. So in all fairness, that happened. Also, the town manager was leaving the district, so he was less involved. There was some transition with the new town manager, Michael Paulus, happening toward the end of the year. The assistant town manager was very much involved with the Capital Projects Building Committee and was at all those meetings with me and the entire group when that project was officially approved by the Capital Project Building Committee. He was no longer with us. He had left and taken a job with the state, so there was no liaison to those meetings other than actually Jacob Rocco from the council attended some of those meetings. So he was the council liaison to the Capital Project Committee, and he did attend some of those meetings. So, in a nutshell, we were preparing. We did all the ed specifications. We applied for a space waiver application grant twice with the state because we have fewer students than the building could support. When it was initially built, it was for a larger population. However, it still has about 550 students in a number of specialized programs for STEM, for STEAM, the band and the chorus. So we tried to argue those points to get some additional resources back from the state if the application were approved. We did not get those, but they said to go through your legislature in order to try to get some of those funds through a different route, which was our plan. So ultimately, last May, the Capital Project Building Committee approved they had approved the ed specs earlier than that, as did the board, and the cost estimation. The Board of Education approved the cost estimation and approved the project to go forward unanimously last spring. It was then presented to the council by the CSG team. They asked me to co-present with them in early June. Subsequently, at the next meeting, we were expecting that our hopes were that the application would be approved. The cost of the project was about $59 million, all things included. Less the reimbursable. Plainville is approved for 65.71% of reimbursable costs. Not every cost in the application's reimbursable, but most of them are. So the cost to the town, I believe, was around $24 million to do the whole renovation project, like new. It was defeated by a vote of 4-3. You needed 5 votes to pass that application. You can't go forward with an application to the state without the council approving that. So that was defeated, and then it went to, at that point, it was pretty much dead in the water for a year. You can't apply again for a year until June 30th of this year. So the summer went by. We started looking at what are we going to do? How can we get this to move forward? Some members of the council asked or proposed that we look at a different option where some debt is incurred for perhaps something like $10 million, and what can we get done for $10 million? So I worked with CSG. We still had some money remaining in that $90,000 that was approved. We worked with them. We consulted with them. We found that there were some options for a maintenance plan, and I met with the state, with the town manager, to find out what would be reimbursable from the state. And ultimately, it was only the roof. You could get 65-ish% for the roof. For the underground oil storage tank, that has to be removed by code by, I can't remember the date, but it has to be removed. And for the elevator. Those are the only 3 things outside of a renovate like new project that would be approved for any grant funding from the state. Those are non-priority projects. The only other thing is, the only priority project would be the secure vestibule for safety in the front. The man trap, if you will, is what it's referred to. We don't have one at the middle school. We can apply for one of those through a priority project by June 30th, and they'll consider that, and it's likely they could pass that too. That's a pretty big project. In the plan, it was about $900,000 to redo the whole front of the building. So those were the things that would qualify. Doing all those projects, Mr. Adlerstein and I should say. I say your name wrong? I've known you for how many years, Sam? I said it right? Okay. I'm talking a lot. We presented to the council. A number of the members of the public came because I had been asked to speak at a parent-teacher council meeting at the middle school. So more and more interest building about what's going to happen with the middle school. We explained the two versions of the project. To spend about $14 million and get about over $3 million reimbursed for that smaller project, to do some of the things that are beyond their expected life, some of the major systems in the school, the roof, some of the mechanical systems. That would take care of less than 25% of the entire project for Renovate Lake New, and it would cost about $11 million of taxpayers' money after the grants were taken out, and you'd still have the other 75% of that project that would be needing to be done, most of it needing to be done. Some of it you would only do if you did a Renovate Lake New, because it's more surface things that you wouldn't have to do, of course. But that's a smaller percent. So after that meeting, it was decided, or the council had said to, they need to know more about the cost of what it's going to really cost to do a full Renovate Lake New with new pricing, because it's been a year since the last cost estimates in May. What it would cost to do a $10 million project. The other factor of this is the debt service that's been really carefully managed over the years by Robert Lee and now by the new town manager in the new budget. We were told a number of times by the town finance director that there's enough room in the current debt service to handle the middle school project. And there was there's a lot more than the current middle school project proposal. So that and then some. So, we meaning myself, Mr. Ellerstein, and our team have really been hoping for renovation, because it seems to make the best economical sense in order to do not even the entire project over time for those items that need to get taken care of. The town cost would be about between $29 and $30 million is our estimate, compared to the $24 million to do the entire building over like new. So that was where we left off with that meeting. I was asked again to attend the parent-teacher council meeting at the middle school. There were quite a few parents there. I shared an update on where it was. The town council had just passed our Board of Education approved budget unanimously, so we were grateful for that. But then I asked the town manager, what's our next step with the middle school? And the answer was that, they weren't going to look at it until after the vote for the budget. The timeline in order to get things prepared for the application, still hoping for a Renovate Lake New application by June 30th. You have to get new cost estimates. You have to resubmit the application. It takes well over a month, perhaps 6 weeks, depending how backed up the cost estimators are. There aren't that many of them. I had checked this with the company, CSG. So the timeline was running short. So there's a lot of pressure on, we have to do something, and we're running out of time. The parent-teacher group invited council members to a meeting on the Wednesday before the vacation. And we started with tours that we helped with. I wasn't part of planning the meeting. I helped kind of scramble to get Mr. Smith, our facilities director, and Mr. Bussell, our previous facilities director, to help with those tours. We probably had about 250 people come. If you weren't there, I'm not sure if you were there or not. And then we had the forum in the auditorium where 6 of the council members were, I give them credit for going and for being available to answer questions. It didn't get moderated in quite the way that was anticipated. The questions were to be sent in advance and read. So, it kind of devolved a little bit, but, I know the recurring question was why can't it be left up to the public for a vote on whether to renovate the school? That's how it should be. So that was the main message. And the other thing I'll say is that between the time of that last council meeting when we presented and that meeting with the forum with the council members, there had been talk and rumors of a wish to look at a third option instead of the renovation or the $10 million, well, $14 million minus the grants we can get option, kind of a plan C that would look at a school study and with the potential of closing the middle school and putting the middle school students at Linden and dividing the Linden students to the other 2 elementary schools. I did share at that forum that is an impossibility unless there was major construction done on actually all three of those schools, because right now they're very close to capacity. We have class sizes that are reasonable and appropriate for the age and grade and developmental level of the students at each of the schools. You know, I know the square footage of Linden is pretty large. We have a robust PFRN program there as well. It takes up some space. You know, the gymnasium is suitable for elementary students. It's not suitable for middle school students. The cafeteria is suitable for elementary students, not middle school. There's no STEM labs. There's no, the chorus and choir areas are not nearly suitable. There's no auditorium at Linden. So all of those features alone are cause for great concern for me as a superintendent in order to support any kind of consideration like that. And then when you look at Toffelon and Wheeler Elementary Schools, they have close to 400 or just about 400 students at Toffelon right now, and it's one of the largest it's ever been. And we have Wheeler's pretty close to capacity. It's a smaller school, so they're just over 300, but there may be room for 20 or 30 students more perhaps at each school. But that's you know 30, 40 more kids, not 400 that are currently at Linden. So I really don't understand a solution or a need for study unless there's another idea aside from that one. So that's my cause for concern. You know, and as a superintendent advising the board, you know, I don't see how the board would support any kind of consideration for closing the middle school or for moving or consolidating schools. So I agree, you know, we don't comment on public comment at a board meeting, but your comments are aligned with my thinking. You know, I can't say they align with everyone's thinking, and I'm not sure if I captured everything from the council and all the things that have transpired, but the middle school it's been a huge undertaking for the last 2 years, and it's been extremely frustrating, you know, and I understand that costs have changed, but, you know, I have to advocate for what's best for Plainville in my role, and that's what I've done. And this is where we are with the middle school right now. So where we left off is that I left the meeting. I'm not sure if they were going to make a motion during the regular council meeting tonight to pursue a study. I think there's support for that from the council, for some members of the council. But, you know, there were comments made by council members about, you know, check with the administration first, really look at it before you spend. It's expensive to do a study, first of all, and it takes months, several months, depending on the size of the study. So, you know, there's a lot involved. So I think that's everything I can tell about the middle school, where we've been, where we are now. You know, we put off millions and millions of dollars of projects that should have been done, or that needed to be done, not should have been done, with the idea that we'll apply for renovation as soon as we possibly can. That's why we went to the state and got that date, that go date, if you will, and put the whole plan together last year. So, you know, it's been a bit of a surprise to have, you know, to not have that go through and to try to figure out a way forward. So that's where we are right now. I don't know if there's any questions, comments, things that, you know, board members want to clarify or other points, but that's the end of my report. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask before we move on?
I just wanted to say thank you for the parents for coming tonight. I know they were also at the council meeting, and I believe they were right behind me at the council meeting, and they were here too. But at the council meeting, after you left, they were asking for a consensus to put the study together. Jacob Rocco said, you know, he believes that we should absolutely be going for the study, and had talked to the town manager about putting some stuff together. Christopher Wazorko asked what the focus of the study would be, what would, you know, the study entail, and how can we ask town manager to gather information before we know any of that. Jacob Rocco, and then Kathy was agreeable to go ahead for the study. Dave Underwood said that he wanted to wait and discuss a little bit more when Deb Tompkins was available as well. Joey Catanzaro said he was agreeable to getting information together for the study. Rosemary said she didn't feel like it was wise since it's, as she believes it's under our scope, and she had talked about the past school closures,
and how the Board of Ed had to vote to close those schools. And she did want a confirmation that this is a Board of Ed decision, but as she believed it had been, and she doesn't, you know, in case, unless anything laws-wise have changed, she wants to do that. And they did discuss potentially having a work session on May 1st. It was kind of thrown around about possibly having the board involved in that. Christopher Wazirka did ask, you know, what if the board isn't agreeable to this? And Kathy just said that would be a big problem all around. So she seems to think the board would be agreeable. And they're talking about May 1st and possibly having the Board of Ed involved, so.
I'm trying to get my, okay,
Becky,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
You know, I'm wondering, and I don't know if this would help us at all, but I'm wondering if it would help us to get an opinion, you know, maybe from, I'm thinking of Tom Mooney, to just talk about decisions regarding schools, configurations of schools, closures of schools, changes in, you know, how a school district operates, and see if Tom would give us that. I mean, I know that's up to the Board of Education. I don't know if the council really understands that, or the council at the very least thinks that they're going to, you know, sort of just bring it and we're going to have to address it because they brought it forward. I don't know what their plan is. I would just say that, you know, at the parent meeting that night, Kathy Puglisi said, we've never really studied the schools. We've never really looked at them. We've never really, and I went like, she looked at me in the audience and she knew I was stunned. All right, in 2002, when the Linden Street School project went out first time and it failed, this huge study was done about the school buildings. We went out and we talked we surveyed parents and we asked people, what kind of a configuration do you want? Because we said, you know, we could do K-2 schools and, you know, 3 and 4, and we could do a lot of different things. People said what they wanted was their community schools. They liked the configuration that we had. That's what they wanted to keep. You know, and that's what people got behind. We had a lot of studies done on all of the schools, what they needed, and the plan at which they would be renovated. And we have come to the end of that because at the time, I'm talking about now 20 years ago, so 21 years ago, so you know, that building was new. But throughout the course of time, and maybe kind of an unwritten rule, sort of what Steve was alluding to, is everybody knew we were going to do the same thing. We have done renovate like new on all of those other buildings. Completely, it's been a bipartisan thing. We have had complete agreement between the town council, the Board of Education, and we've had a capital projects building committee, which has done an awesome job serving the community and really helping us, you know, get to where we are today with a lot of people very, very, you know, appreciative of the buildings that we have. So we're at the point where it's time for the middle school, and it wasn't time for the Board of Education or the town council to say, spend the money. It was time to say, let's let the people vote, right? That's all it was. It was just saying, let's let people vote and decide what they want. And that's when that big number came in. The council decided to, you know, not move it forward. And we were shocked, to be quite honest. You know, for many years, we've been delaying that maintenance, planning for this to happen, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. And beyond that point, to hear somebody just say, you know, maybe we don't need the building, I mean, it's just, I just have to say, it's completely just nonsensical to go in this fashion. First of all, changes like this have to be done by the Board of Education. And if the Board of Education wanted to do that, the first thing we would do is we would go out and start surveying people and saying, how would you feel if we changed the configuration of the middle school? Like, do you want us to send the 8th grade to the high school? Do you want us to put the 6th grade back at the elementary level? I mean, these are the kinds of things that you could ask your community and see what the community has, has an appetite for. How important do people feel the middle school is? I mean, if you spend time in the middle school, you know that that group of kids has very special and specific needs. And, these are the kinds of things that we, as a Board of Education, think about. These are the kinds of things that we, as a Board of Education, are supposed to decide. This is not under the council's purview, and it shouldn't be forced down our throats. And that's, quite honestly, what I feel is happening here. And I can't understand why they want to go out and spend $1 before they even know if there's an appetite to do that, before they've even taken consideration that the building administration, our administration, can give a lot of information about what's even feasible to do. What could we even consider doing? And they haven't even asked that question. It's insane. And at some point, I'd like to have real straight enrollment numbers put out there publicly, because a lot of, I don't know what he was saying tonight, there's something about 300 students less, but I don't know what the time frame was he was referring to.
Since 2001.
Since 2001 to today.
Yeah.
We're down by 300 students, is that what it is? All right. I mean, it's.
Across the whole district.
Yeah, across the whole district, 300 kids. In the past few years, it's really slowed down the reduction in students. I think we're probably, we're steady and we're building houses. So I think it'd be foolish to, to start looking at reducing the size of the district at this point in time. But anyway, the fact that we're even having this conversation is just crazy to me. But like I said, enrollment to me is important, that we can focus on exactly where we're headed with that. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
I'd just like to, I agree with what Becky is saying. I personally think that what the council is doing really, quite frankly, is insulting to the professional staff that we have in our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, and our business manager and development or operations person. That Becky is right, these are the decisions that we should be making. And at this point of time, I do not think that is the time to even consider closing the school. Because if you look at what has been added to the district since 2001, yes, there are fewer students overall. But in that same time, we have added all-day, full-day time kindergarten. It was a half kindergarten before we had that. So, and also added on to that, we have now added free pre-K, which now enhances all of our students in their development over the entire 14-year education time period. We have had, and Dave has supplied us with what our enrollment figures are, looking at what they are in actuality, and also as proposed into what projections. And normally speaking, our actual figures are higher enrollment than that we have projected. So that any casual walk through any one of our 5 buildings does not indicate any wasted or unused space. What we do have is and I think at the level now, we are approaching maximum student-to-teacher ratios. And some of the benefits of keeping low student-to-teacher ratios were clearly explained tonight in the presentation for our elementary schools. That it is an inordinate waste of time and effort and our students' progress to stop what we need to do, which is to get the middle school up to its standards, both physically and just for safety purposes and for academic enrollment needs. And what we need to do is to give the voters of Plainville the opportunity to decide. And that's simply what we're asking. We're not asking anyone to spend $58 million. What we're asking is, we're asking permission for the Board of Education to apply to the state of Connecticut to receive the benefits of a renovate as new process to bring our middle school up to standard, as has been, as Becky clearly pointed out, our process for the last 20 years. Not to fix as you think it needs done, but to renovate it as new, which is a sound program that has been used for many years by the state of Connecticut. Our process is simply to, as we expended, as the superintendent pointed out, we expended substantial funding to work with CSG to come up with the proposal that we would then ask the council that they would agree to have a referendum. Once they did that, once they just said, we will do that, then our application goes to the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut then approves that application. Then we move forward, as we have already pre-agreed, with a referendum to the people to move ahead. Do you want to have the state underwrite close to 65% of this renovation project, and you pick up the other burden, Mr. Taxpayer or Mrs. Taxpayer? That is simply the question. We are now faced with a critical time period. We have to get this application in and approved by June 30th, 2023. If we're going to get this done within 2 years, I mean, we even start. Once it gets approved, we lose another year. It takes a year to get this process forward. What we need to do is get this done. All we really need the council to do, rather than going on with their self-dealing, whatever their process is, I can't get my arms around their ineptitude, is to get an application approved so that we can bring it to the voters so we can get this job done. So we have a physical plant that is back up. All of the mechanical features in that physical structure have outlived their useful mechanical life. They need to be replaced. Just as the roof on your house needs to be replaced, your windows need to be replaced. You got to replace your stove and your washing machine, and it always happens on the same day. But you've got to get these done, and that's what we need to do. So my hope is that we come together as a unified group of people committed to education, that we agree in unanimity, that we move forward with a renovate as new process with the middle school of Plainville.
Thank you, Foster.
Sorry for taking so much time.
Would anybody else like to speak?
I mean, how can I not after that? Thank you all for your feedback and consideration. It's disheartening to sit up here and the Board of Education voted to send it to the town council. With all due respect, we have to let the town council now do their jobs. We did not say that because we voted for it, the town council just immediately sends it to referendum. The town council has a bigger scope and purview than we do, which is the entire town. I just am disheartened to hear words like insane, crazy, ineptitude, when we're supposed to be working together for a path forward. At MSP last week, I was very excited to have an opportunity for the parents to tour that school. When we sat in the audience, I was also very excited to have an opportunity for questions to be answered. Like Mr. LePage said, I was very glad that almost all of the council members did come on both sides of the aisle. I thought they did a fantastic job answering questions and being transparent. So I would like to make that very clear. I did not leave that MSP meeting thinking that they were going to be moving forward by June 30th. I'm not putting my opinion in one way or the other. I'm just looking at the facts and reality that we're presented with currently. If they're not going to move forward by June 30th, what can we do to move forward? I mean, that is the question. So if a survey and additional data, and Becky, I'll ask you a question because I know that you have been here and have the answer. When we did these studies 20 years ago, were they the same type of study that is being requested by the town council now? Were they actual feasibility studies?
I don't really know what they're requesting right now, to be quite honest. I don't think they know what they're requesting right now. My impression is that they want somebody to tell them if a number of students can fit in certain buildings. And, you know, our administration can tell you if a number of students can fit in certain buildings. But then when you want to talk about, does it make sense to educate those people that, you know, those students that fit in that building, that's a different story. So I don't exactly know what they're looking for, Rachel, so I can't really answer that, but I can just say that, you know, the first place they should have come is here and said to us, we're thinking you don't need that building. Let's be honest here. We're thinking you don't need the building. We're thinking there's a way out and around it. Can you show us why you would, you know, is that crazy? Do we think it's crazy? Do you think it's crazy? Is there a way to do it? I'm sorry if I'm using the word crazy. But, you know, I think some quick math would show them it doesn't really work unless they want to make major configuration changes in the way we educate students in Plainville. And
Thank you for that. You know, I wasn't here 20 years ago and wasn't certain if it was the same type of study that's being requested now. I did attend the town council meeting this evening as well. And again, I'm there, like you, getting information. I don't, my takeaway wasn't that they don't know what they're doing. My takeaway is that the process has just begun to pursue this solution. And it sounds like tonight was their first work session, and it sounds like we are going to be having a work session with them. You said on May 1st, potentially? Potentially. And I also took away that it is our, you know, to close a school would, of course, be the Board of Education's decision. Nobody is looking to close a school. From my takeaway, it sounded like information was being gathered. Whether we agree or not, that's not, we've already voted, we've done our jobs. We've sent it to the town council for them to now do theirs. I would just want, as a voter, every possible solution before we make a commitment and every ounce of data that we could possibly have before moving forward. The unfortunate situation is that we have a couple months to get this done if we were to move forward within the June 30th timeline. So I just want to bring this back to balance and back to true center because last week's middle school meeting did not feel like center. And I just hope that we can continue to have open dialogue and work together as a Board of Education to get a path forward. We need a path forward.
The point is that all we are really need to do is we need permission technically from the town council for us to make this application to the state to renovate this building as new. That's all. We cannot do anything if we do that. If you take a lot of time, and it will take probably a year or more if they want to do any type of comprehensive study, which really all you have to do is walk through 5 buildings and you have your answer right there, because you can't do that, but I don't want to go there. What we need to do is really get permission so we can at least file to get this application to renovate as new. And all the council has to do is approve that by saying, yes, if it is approved, we will hold a referendum. In the meantime, that is going to take time to do because the state will, you know, really has to go before the bonding commission and hold the whole rigmarole with the state. So if you make the application just June 30th, we will not be doing anything at least until 2025. So in that same meantime that you go back and want to get this put before the public, then you could do your survey. If they, I think it would be a tremendous waste of our taxpayer money to spend money to do this survey. But if they want to do that survey, do that at the same time we are then getting the approval from the state. Then we have to go back out and do finished drawings and do all of the other work to get the renovators' new project done. At the same time, they could then be doing their study. We have not spent any significant money. But yet, if we delay this until they do the survey, it will be at least until 2027 or 2028 before any work will then get done on the middle school. So in the ensuing 4 or 5 years, our students are going to suffer. They are not going to get the education that they need. They're not going to be in a safe facility. They're not going to be in a facility unless we spend a lot more money that will even have a gym that you can really conduct athletics in, because it is uncomfortably warm in the summertime. And Val is looking right at me. Yeah, you're right. That is a fact. And so I think the pressure's got to be brought to bear that we implore the council to let us apply to renovate the middle school of Plainville as new facility. That's the simple question. And that is what we've done. We brought it to them before. I think that has got to be publicly our unified stand, that this is where it's got to be. You want to conduct your study afterwards and waste taxpayers' money? That's your prerogative. I don't think it's anyone's prerogative to waste 1 penny of taxpayers' money. But if they want to do that, that's fine. That's their call, unfortunately. But then we also have April 25th to deal with. We have got to get this budget passed. And those are our tasks, ladies and gentlemen.
Just, Madam Chair, can I just say something to clarify? The board would have to input into the study as well, so it wouldn't be a unilateral decision for them to go ahead with the study. And they were just taking a consensus tonight, and like I said, they were kind of throwing ideas around. There was a cameraman there. I thought it was all recorded, but it wasn't. They started recording right before the town council meeting. But I know myself recorded it, and I believe another parent recorded it, so I'm sure it'll be popping up the meeting to the public as well. But, you know, they did say the Board of Ed would be having a say on this study as well, so it's not just the town council. We've done our job, and now it's time to do theirs.
Do we know if it was voted on tonight?
They didn't vote on, they were taking a consensus, what it kind of sounded like, and you could see the video, you know, for yourself and come to your own conclusion, but they were kind of taking a consensus. Then they brought up the first, then somebody brought up the Board of Ed being part of it. They said, you know, that might be the possibility, so we'll find out, you know, how that's going to go along. And, you know, I know, like Christopher was saying, we have to know what this study actually includes before we can ask the town manager to get information on it, because how can he get information if we're not even saying what it includes? So it was kind of, it was a little bit all over the place. So, you know, it looks like they're looking for March 1st for another work session. It looks like they're trying to get, or sorry, May 1st. It looks like they're trying to get the town manager to put some type of information together, but nothing would be finalized, obviously, coming into that work session. So, like I said, I'll be happy to share the video, and you could come to your own conclusion of how it ended, because it was kind of everybody had a response.
The town manager did say, when they were talking about the feasibility study being, comparing it to Bristol's study, and Bristol being such a large town compared to ours, that they were looking at an estimated time frame of 90 days. Which unfortunately puts us past, we have our deadline of June 30th. But it did sound like, I know, Foster, you had just mentioned a year's time frame. I just wanted to say that, and you could hear that in the recording too, that the town manager did say it would take about 90 days for the feasibility study.
Right. And even before the feasibility study, as Rosemary mentioned, that Bristol feasibility study was introduced. The top line of it is from the Board of Education. Had voted to put that feasibility study together, so they would have to even figure out, how that comes out from the town council. So I think there's a lot of steps and a lot of information still to gather.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
I just have one quick thing. I know it's
Sure.
getting late.
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to, like Foster said, kind of see if two things could be done at once. First of all, I believe that we should be looking at that June deadline to see what we can do to get at least the application in. And going forward, I know the maintenance wasn't done on the middle school, but hopefully going forward, our look at the schools can be handled a little bit differently for our maintenance, because we're not going to renovate like new, hopefully every building every 30 years. I mean, it'd be better all the way around for the, to not have to wait. But with that being said, I think the Plainville Community Schools and the MSP in particular have been under a lot of stress right now, and I think there's been a lot of losses and a lot of challenges to that community. I believe that this just adds to and gives a little bit of undue stress at this time that I don't know that it's necessary. But again, I think that whether or not to get information, there might be curiosity, but I think you got to keep the bigger picture in mind. And honestly, it is my opinion, just my personal opinion, that in the biggest picture of everything is that up the road 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we're going to be looking at school voucher programs and wanting to make our Plainville community schools the best schools we can possibly make them. So if we want to make them the most attractive schools, the best schools, we also have an opportunity to make the middle school an incredibly attractive school to outside students. I've been working a lot in the cities, in Waterbury and New Britain, and when you see the schools that the children go to there, our children in Plainville are very, very fortunate. And I can see how, other school districts can find these schools to be a wonderful place to try to send their children. So looking forward to seeing those changes. On the flip side, I don't like the idea of vacant buildings. It does no good, I don't think, for an area. You have to have an agreement to do something with the building, and with that, you have to, that all takes time, and that vacant building and those vacant spots tend to just attract, at nothing else, it can end up just decreasing property value and making the neighborhood just one of those places where, a vacant school building and parking lot is a big amount of space for problems to brew. But those are my 2 cents. I mean, I can appreciate the wanting of information, but on the other side, I am definitely, I want to see the school district as attractive as possible.
Thank you.
If I could just clarify one point, Ms. Clark, regarding the maintaining of the schools. Our staff, our maintainers in our facilities department maintain our schools the very best that they can. Some decisions are made not to replace things that are at the end of their life and wait for renovation. So it's really a replacement of failing systems. Instead, they're being kind of patched together and held together by super glue and bubble gum. I'm being facetious, but we're taking approaches to try to extend their life as best we can, but we're not replacing them as we normally would, because you'd wait for the renovation. So I just don't want to, I know that came up before, that, a gentleman from the town at the council meeting had said, why aren't they maintaining their schools? And it was a misunderstanding. He's not a very nice guy, but we are maintaining our schools very well, and that's why we have a pretty skilled maintenance crew, but they're just past their life, so we don't replace them thinking that we can get it in through the grant.
I was just going off of what Mrs. Terrell said earlier about,
Deferred maintenance.
Deferred maintenance.
Yes.
Maybe that was not a proper word.
Due to the unspoken rule that we were automatically going to renovate like new,
Correct.
though there is no rule.
Just one quick little thing I just wanted to say. I know Rachel, that you mentioned, you know, we did our job, you turn it over to the council and let them do their job. That's not the way it works, though. We are the Board of Education, and as the Board of Education, we are the only ones in this town who are really the, you know, the voice, the advocates for the school district, and that's our job. So just like when we pass the budget over, we don't just pass the budget over and say, okay, we did our job. We advocate for it in any way we have to. And if that means we go out to the public and advocate for it, that's what we do, because we know that that's the right thing for the district. So that's what we may need to do with this building project, and if that's what we need to do, that's what we do. We don't just bring it over, send it over to the council and say, oh, well, they don't see it our way.
Yeah, we have
No.
to support what we vote for.
I'm so sorry that it was perceived that way, and if it was in our purview, we would have had the ability to send it out for referendum. It would be, if we voted yes, and if it was fully within our scope, you know, then we would be the ones sending it to referendum. That was my only point, is that we did our portion of the work, and yes, the town council does have a wider scope and purview. And at the end of the day, nothing is free, regardless if we're reimbursed or not. And in these financial times, you know, at the end of the day, it is the taxpayer who is going to pay for whatever this school cost, you know, and so, you know, I'd have to disagree. I'm advocating, I'm sitting here as a Board of Education member just saying that I am interested and open to information. That is it. But if this was within our scope of purview, we would be sending it out to referendum.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to move on to the board subcommittee reports. Foster, do you have anything for the finance?
There's been
facilities?
no finance facilities subcommittee meeting since our last meeting, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Policy subcommittee, Crystal?
Nothing to report.
Curriculum subcommittee report, Rebecca?
No report.
Outreach subcommittee, there's no report. PAC liaison, high school, Foster?
The PAC has not met since our last meeting, and I have not been able to obtain a date for the next PAC meeting from Karen.
Thank you. Teflon, Rebecca?
No report.
And Linden Street School, Cassandra?
Yes, I was just trying to find the date of the next one, and I believe it is going to be tomorrow. Wednesday. They hold their meetings, but I would double check your calendar for that. So Linden did have a excellent start to spring, where the kids were there doing an egg hunt, and they had a lot of fun participating in that. There were some raffles that were done by the teachers in the community at the Linden School, and they did a good job with raising some money for that. There is a Linden Street School scholarship that is still, that I believe still is open for applicants, so for seniors that are looking for to apply, I believe. Yeah, it's April. I believe that's still open, but again, I did not check with Nicole. So on the website for Linden School, there is a PTO drop down where you can send the PTO an email if you have any questions about that application for the scholarship for college.
Great, thank you. The middle school, Crystal?
Yep, so the MSP PTC had their regular, meeting on Tuesday, March 28th. And as Mr. LePage said, he did come to that meeting and he did give some updates on the budget and the MSP building project. There was lots of talk and excitement about planning end-of-year events for 8th graders and all the other students at MSP. They're currently doing their spring spirit wear until about May 5th, I believe. And that spirit wear sale is it's for the middle school students, but it's also geared toward elementary students who will be going to the middle school. And I believe they're going to be at the superintendent showcase this week selling their spirit wear there. I think that's pretty much it. Their next meeting, I think, is tomorrow, April 18th, at 7 p.m.
Great, thank you so much. Wheeler, Rachel?
I had a lot of things to highlight, but I'm going to do a quick synopsis due to time. The Wheeler next PTO meeting is Thursday on May the 3rd in the library. I just want to highlight Miss Miller, a fifth grade teacher and student council liaison, for raising on Spirit Days $241 for a PJ Day for the Children's Hospital, which I just thought was fantastic. I had the pleasure of being at Wheeler one day, I think it was for learning rounds, and got to see the students dressed up for a Spirit Day, and it really elevated the energy and atmosphere, and the kids were excited to be there, and I just thought that was really terrific. And wearing PJs to school must have seemed so fun since it's something, you know, special and unusual. Fifth graders took a field trip to Discovery Planet. Fourth graders, I thought this was super cool, are exploring the connection between sound and vibration. That's just very neat. If you want to learn more about that, see Mr. B's Wheeler Flash. It's excellent, has lots of information. And the final thing I would like to just make note of is third grades had a book tasting. And I just thought this was super clever and a very great idea, where they shared their favorite books with one another for a book tasting. And I just thought that was a very creative initiative for these kids. And I will thank the PTO at Wheeler for providing childcare during conferences. I know that helped make things go a little more seamlessly. So next meeting, May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky, any correct report?
I have no report.
Okay. Chairperson's report. I just wanted to report that I had the pleasure of speaking to the fifth grade graduates at Toflon Elementary School last week. They graduated our DEAR program, and it was a nice time, and they were all very excited to have their graduation. So that's all for me. We're going to move on to unfinished business. If there are no objections, I'm going to ask for a motion to remove the aforementioned policy items A through H from postponement.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to remove items A through H from postponement.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the aforementioned policies, item A through H, as presented?
Motion to approve?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We'll move on to new business. Next is board open forum. Anyone want to speak for board open forum?
I did have pages upon pages for board open forum, but in the spirit of time, I will save them for next meeting.
Okay.
I can't remember if I said this, so you can all stop me if I said it last month. But our food service director, Ashley Carl, and students, did I talk about that last time? I can't remember. It, you know, really has been one of the people. There's two food service directors in the state who have really spearheaded trying to go to the state and get kids to go to the state and go to the legislature and talk about, you know, free meals for all. And Ashley has really put in a lot of effort towards that, and got kids to go up there and has really been working hard. So I know we just gave her what's the award that she just got?
All-Star.
The All-Star award.
All-Star,
So we
yeah.
can't give it to her again, but I did want to bring that to your attention. She's really been doing a great job, very dedicated.
And I'm not a board member, but she recruited me to speak at, I testified as well with the hearing, and there were a number of food service providers. They had classrooms of students who zoomed into the meeting. It was great, and Ashley is amazing. She's also, I forgot to mention this during my report, so I apologize that I'm not board open forum here, but she coordinated a local What's it called, Sam? Do you know? Tasting, it's a
Yeah,
tasting of,
It's called Put Local on Your Tray.
local on your tray and using local farms at Wheeler School tomorrow. I think the board hopefully was invited, 10:30. I know Henry Martin's coming. So it should be a great event, and really, I think it's kale on the menu tomorrow. I do like kale. I like it roasted personally, but I'll try it however it's served. I'll be there. So Ashley's really an outstanding food service director. She's really wonderful. So I agree. Thank you.
Board open forum for anyone else. I know we just spoke a lot, but I have to offer it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the presentation by the elementary school student principals and teams. That was very informative, and so it's nice.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Quarterly special education cost report. There's no report, no turf committee report. I need to request approval of participation in healthy food and beverage certification initiative from July 1st, 2023 to 6/30/24. Do I have a motion to approve the language for healthy food option?
So moved.
Pursuant to CGS Section 10-215F, the Plainville Community Schools Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Do I also have a motion to approve the following language for combined food and beverage exemptions?
So moved.
The Plainville Community School Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in the section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice meeting or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Anyone else? Motion carries. Request of the approval of BOE subcommittee list. Do I have a motion to approve the Board of Education subcommittee list as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moving to the consent agenda, is there any need for,
You took a motion in a second, or did I miss it?
You have to vote on the subcommittee. You got a motion in a second.
it says list as presented, okay. Do I have a second?
Yes, I did second it.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there any need for discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda? If so, we'll need a motion to take the item off of the consent agenda for discussion. If there's no discussion, can I get a motion to approve the entire consent agenda as presented?
Madam Chairman, I move we accept the consent agenda as submitted in our packet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn?
And then,
Second.
do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Have a good night.
Now, Madam Chairman, I move that we go into executive session and invite the superintendent, anyone else he desires to attend.
That's just me.
I think it's just Steve. Okay.
Just me.
Can we take a quick bathroom break before
Yep.
going into executive session? Thank you.
Yeah. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
I'm not in recess.
Is he recording this?